Hey folks, welcome back to the Lone Pine Tarot, or of course, if you're new to the channel, welcome to Lone Pine Tarot for the very first time. And today is day 5, our final day of what I call our Mystic Midsummer Marathon 2025. So today, kind of slash into tomorrow, the 21st, is the summer solstice in the Northern Hemisphere. So I thought, why not celebrate the end of our marathon and tie it off with a neat bow with a good old-fashioned message from the universe meant for you to hear during the summer solstice this season. So without further ado, let us choose our pile leaders to pick our messages with. So calling on spirit, please guide us to the right cards for us to pick our messages with. Thank you. Okay, that's pile 1 for sure. And let us see. There's pile number 2. And pile number 3. Let's unveil them together. So for pile 1 over here on the left, your pile leader today is Heir of Dimensional, always, already. For pile number 2 in the middle, your pile leader today is Earth of Dimensional, creating sacred. And last but not least, for our wonderful pile number 3 over here on the right, your pile leader today is Celestial of Air, Spiral Time. Okay, so quick refresher. Pile 1, you are always already. Pile 2, you are creating sacred. And pile 3 over here on the right is Spiral Time. Though, as I always say, you're welcome to pause right now if you need more time to decide what pile you would like read for you. If you're new to pick a card readings, feel free to continue watching the intro to follow my suggestion on how to pick. We just go through what I call a meditative moment that I guide us all through. So close your eyes, taking a deep cleansing breath, and imagine light filling your lungs as you do so. Then hold it for just a moment. Then when you breathe back out again and open your eyes, where are they drawn most first? And I recommend that when you look at the card you're most drawn to, see if it feels right in your gut. You get kind of a sense of intuition, as I call it, and that is the pile I recommend you go with. But whatever your method, when you are ready, you can drop down to the description box below or the top pinned comment. Find the timestamp for your pile, and I'll see you in our chat about the summer solstice message from the universe meant for you. See you there. Hello there, my wonderful pile number 1. Welcome today to your summer solstice message from the universe. And of course, as you recall, you were drawn to Heir of Dimensional, always, already, as your pile leader to lead your message today. So I meditated on every single pile leader before I started recording today for each pile. And what came up with your particular meditation, pile 1, was the phrase domino effect. And basically the way Spirit was describing it to me is there's something either in the present or the very near future around the summer solstice that you're going to start doing that you think is quite minor. It's not a giant step like, say, starting a new job or starting a new business or meeting a new person. It's not a huge leap like that. It's something that you consider kind of inconsequential, or something you think is like, oh, this is just a little tiny thing. But despite that, it's like this tiny little domino that's going to get knocked over, and it's going to keep hitting bigger and bigger dominoes along the way. Now, I'm wondering if, as we pull your other cards, we'll see maybe more about specifically what that is, and also to help you recognize it. But that is what really came forward prominently when I was meditating on your pile leader. And in general, this particular card from the deck guidebook that it's from, it's called the Wild Harmonic Oracle. Fantastic oracle. It has really, really good meditations or like questions to ask yourself when you do, like with the guidebook that comes along with it. And the question your guidebook entry for this card said was to ask yourself, in what ways am I already who I want to become? So that might kind of tie into that domino effect message too. Maybe there's something that you've been dreaming about recently of like who you want to become. Maybe it's even like a drastic lifestyle change. Like maybe, right now you're working the 9-to-5 life and you want to be self-employed, or it could be maybe you're single and you want to have like a long-term relationship, or maybe you just got out of a long-term relationship that wasn't so great and you just want to be, happy single. Whatever, your story is specifically, pile number 1. one, ask yourself, in what ways am I already that person that I want to morph into? And that's the meaning of always already, with that being the title of your pile leader. You're already that person in many different ways. And in recognizing that, pile one, that will help propel you forward into not only like with motivation and like optimism, but in terms of like manifesting the thing that you're looking for to the universe. Is just imagining that you already have that, or you're already that person. Well, already, always already, as the pile leader says. So let's keep those messages in mind as we pull your other cards to see what else comes forward for your summer solstice message. Actually, let's set this one off to the left. I want to do Lenormand first today instead of tarot, and then we will do your tarot spread, of course, as well. But I felt drawn to work with Lenormand today. I guess we needed more maybe blunt messages for the collective. I love Lenormand. Fantastic system. So Spirit, from Lenormand, what else do you want to talk to them today about for their summer solstice message? All right, 1, 2, split that one, and number 3, okay. So for the first Lenormand today, we have the crossroads. All right, a choice, a path to be taken. Yep, that's kind of like what I was saying, pile one. I was like, I feel like you're just on the cusp of something you think is minor. Maybe something you feel like is just as simple as choosing a different path to take. One to the forest, one to the ocean as it's depicted in this card. But really, it's more important than you think, because the crossroads is all about a choice of some sort, or an indecision. It's kind of like the Two of Swords in tarot, if you're familiar with that card. Excuse me. And then we have the bear, okay, going after things with ferocity. Sometimes it can represent strength in some ways as well. Let's see, so a choice made with strength or ferocity. And then we have the coffin or the crypt, or it's like a burial mound in the Celtic Lenormand. And that is all about ending something, right? Because we think of death when we see a coffin or a burial mound, although, like in tarot, death doesn't always necessarily mean death. In this case, it's like you're making the choice to strongly end something. So I wonder, too, if part of this little minor step you're taking, that little domino effect we talked about, is related to some sort of choice you're making to cut something out of your life that's no longer serving you. Okay, so I think, collectively for you, pile one, all of you watching this, like, it's a really good time here around the summer solstice to try to cut away the chaff from the wheat, in terms of like, what do you really want to keep in your life, okay? What is no longer serving you, and to let that go so that it can bring more positive energy in, and doing so with conviction, because that's another word that's really good to use with the bear in Lenormand, is someone that does things with strength and conviction, okay? Think about how, it sounds kind of silly, but think about how a bear would tackle the situation you're in. Would a bear put up with things that are toxic for it, or, put up with, other bears that are toxic for it? Of course, using that as a metaphor for people, right? Well, no, a bear would be strong. A bear would be like, just would walk away, or, literally maybe just bat something away. Like, I know that sounds really silly, pile one, just to imagine a bear doing those things, but that's because, like I said in Lenormand, that's what it represents, is like that strength, the I don't put up with crap type of energy is how you would describe someone that has like a bear pulled out in their Lenormand spread, okay? So a choice to strongly end something, or a choice to end something with conviction, is your main message today. And if so, pile number one, Spirit is also commending you for doing that. The fact that this came up, and maybe that it's kind of a bit of a synchronicity, because maybe just today at work, or wherever you were today, you were thinking to yourself, maybe I should really stop doing that thing, or I should cut this thing out of my life, or maybe I should start focusing on this more positive thing, this little tiny little domino that you're going to knock over, and then boom, very positive domino effect from there. Okay, so don't be afraid to end things that no longer serve you. Okay, so let's see. Then next, let's look at your tarot spread, and then we'll do your oracle cards at the very end, pile number one. All right, Spirit, anything else you want to say about the situation at hand that you want to give them advice on? Thank you, 5 cards. Okay, that one already flipped over. We actually have 2. So this one flipped over first. We have the Weaver, or as it's known in most decks, the Queen of Challenges or Swords, reversed as the Inciting Incident card. Very interesting. And then the second one, Oh, you actually had 3. Wow. Okay, so the second one, never mind, is actually the 5 of Wands or spells. Okay, so I get the feeling, pile number 1, for most of you. A lot of what you're being called to cut out of your life is something to do with people that have large egos, people that have large competitive streaks. That tends to be what the 5 of Wands is all about. It looks a little bit more lighthearted in this particular depiction because they're literally just practicing spells and turning each other into frogs. So, and it is more lighthearted than, say, if you had gotten the 5 of Swords, which is more about harsh conflict. But at the same time, it kind of makes me think of things that are either petty or silly. Like maybe there's been people in your life recently, or maybe even just one person that has been kind of petty or silly, and you're like, oh, and silly in a bad way is what I mean, in terms of like, they're just ridiculous on how much drama they bring into your life. Or, it might not even be necessarily be a person. It could be like some sort of thing that you're like, I should just let go of this because it's just not serving me anymore, And for those of you where it is a person, I think that's where this Queen of Wands reversed comes in. Or I'm sorry, not Queen of Wands, it's a Queen of Swords. That's the challenges card in this, or suit in this particular deck. Queen of Swords reversed. Remember that. And that tends to represent a feminine energy most of the time, especially being air is the suit of Swords in tarot, is all about someone who tends to be sharp of tongue, tends to be intelligent, but kind of in a cruel or maybe more of a ruthless way. So that's a bit of an indicator for those of you where this is a person. It might be a feminine person who matches those traits of being, like I said, ruthless, maybe sharp of tongue, maybe they're kind of insulting when they talk to you, and maybe they argue a lot, maybe especially with a Queen of Swords next to a 5 of Wands is someone that argues over petty reasons. You're like, I can't stand this person anymore. So in that case, pile 1, yes, you're being commended in terms of maybe wanting to cut that person out of your life, or in general to just, if it's not one particular person, it could mean for you to try to cut out everything out of your life as much as possible, situations like that, or things that lead to situations like that in terms of like petty arguments and, exchanging of like sharp tongues or maybe harsh words. Let's see. And then we have the Moon reversed as the heart of the matter, unveiling illusions for what they really are, seeing reality after a time of fantasy. Okay. So what that means, pile number 1, is like, this is the present position, or I call it the heart of the matter, as I mentioned before. And that tends to represent like where you are right now. And it's just realization of, oh, this is really what's going on. Maybe you thought it was something else before. Maybe you thought, oh, this person isn't so bad, or this situation isn't so bad. Maybe I don't get into arguments a lot, or maybe I, but then finally it unveils with the Moon reversed, and you're like, oh, now I realize I don't want this in my life anymore. I don't want to have to put up with this. Okay. You're realizing things for what they really are, okay? Let's look at the other 2 cards. We have the near future is the 6 of challenges, or 6 of swords reversed. So that can represent a time of having some difficulty trying to actually like physically move on from things. So it's spirit kind of highlighting a little bit of a time of working on getting rid of these energies, okay? Because literally you can see here, I don't know exactly what fantasy creature she is. She almost kind of looks like a dwarf to me. Because she's got the pointed ears, but she's shorter like a dwarf. But down below her, under the tree, there's a bunch of wolves. There's a whole pack of wolves that are like coming after her. And I always love the depiction of her face in this particular card because she just looks exasperated. She's literally like patting the sweat away. She's like, I do not want to be around these wolves anymore. Thank God I climbed up this tree. But reversed, it's kind of a reminder that maybe you're having some struggles with that in the near future. Of course, we'll see what the oracle cards say in terms of advice and helping you on this journey towards, where you want to be. And remember the advice from your pile leader as well, though, pile 1, where it's, always already. In what ways are you already the person, or are you already kind of where you want to be at? Okay. For example, maybe you already know that you're someone who stands very firm when it comes to not sacrificing your boundaries over someone who's maybe a little bit more aggressive of tongue, like we talked about with that Queen of Swords at the very beginning, right? Maybe, I'm trying to think of other traits that would be really helpful in a situation like this. Maybe you're very you speak eloquently, right? And so, like, that might help you kind of try to kind of navigate out of situations in a more polite way with this person to kind of separate yourself from them more, or situations in general like that. Like I said, if it's not a specific person, okay? So yes, we'll see what advice we have on moving away from the pack of wolves, so to speak. And then last but not least, we have the Weaver or the Queen of Pentacles. Beautiful as an outcome. So basically what that means, pile number 1, because I always read tarot as a snapshot of a timeline that can change. But the beautiful thing is with this outcome is you're already on the right path towards that positive change that you're looking for, because the Queen of Pentacles, we went from a nasty Queen of Swords reversed over here, like, not so nice, kind of frozen, thorns are around her, things are icy, to look how much bounty there is here with the Queen of Pentacles at the very end, especially upright, right? The Queen of Pentacles upright tends to represent material security. It tends to represent internal security as well, because she's the strong mastery of feminine energy with the combination of earth. That's why she's a gardener, right? Look at her nurturing everything. Everything's happy. So I do see you actually, after this little bit of struggle here with that Six of Swords reversed, moving to a time of greater bounty in terms of security. Maybe even some of these situations have been affecting your financial status, or like your can't talk today. Your finances, that's the word I wanted to say. Or maybe it's someone related to a job that you're working, okay? Because that can be represented by a pentacle situation. And it's like moving away from that so that you're more secure in your job, or secure with your finances, or what have you, regarding, like I always say, extrapolate that to your particular situation. But you are on the right path. And that is the main part of what Spirit wants to tell you today, is you are on the right path towards where you're supposed to be. Okay. Just like your pile leader says, always already. You're kind of basically already there. Just needs a few more steps here with moving forward with the challenge of the Six of Swords reverse that we saw here in the near future. But once you work through that, very positive blessings, a very positive place to be with that Queen of Pentacles. All right, let's look at your 2 other oracle cards. We'll see if they give you some advice. And 2, we'll also, of course, grab maybe some extra tarot cards at the end if we still have some questions regarding the Six of Swords reversed. Okay, so Spirit, anything else you want to say them, especially when it comes to advice in this matter, on moving forward to where they want to be with their goals and their dreams and away from toxic situations? Right there. Oopsie. We have the Rooster and Sunflower with communication. Okay, so of course when we think of roosters, what do we think of first, pile number 1? We probably think of their call, right? I won't imitate it on camera because I don't want to irritate you, but you know what I mean. Not to say that roosters are irritating. I like their calls, but me imitating it would not be fun to listen to. But you know what I mean. Their call in the morning, right? And so they tend to herald the beginning of a new day. When it hits morning, they're the rooster calls. And so, I'm kind of wondering why sunflower represents communication. Maybe because they're very big and they're very showy and they're very open and forward, right? Very in your face kind of flowers. So when I think of that in terms of symbolism regarding the advice that Spirit is giving you, pile number 1, your main key advice, of course we'll pull your other oracle card too, but is when you come across challenges of trying to move away from these toxic situations or toxic people, and towards your goals of bounty and success with finances and career and being secure, like that Queen of Pentacles, communicate clearly. Okay, as hard as it might be, you might have a little bit of a hesitance to speak out and say, hey, I don't want to put up with that anymore, or hey, you're kind of pushing my boundaries, right? With whoever this person is, or maybe even if it's not a person, pile 1, it could even just literally saying to yourself, I'm going to stop doing this bad habit today, or I'm going to start doing this today. Remember that little domino effect we talked about? It seems like a minor thing, but really it leads to bigger changes in the future and manifesting the goals that you have in mind, okay? Communicate to yourself and communicate to others very clearly your wants and your needs. And then, it's interesting too, because at the very beginning with that Queen of Swords reversed, I read that as that might be like for those of you where this is a person, that represents the person that is being difficult, right? With the ruthless tongue, remember? But at the same time, it can also represent, pile 1, someone who's having a feminine energy, having troubles communicating. Okay, so that maybe is kind of where all this is stemming from, especially as the Queen of Swords is the inciting incident card I call the first card in my spread, is what started this all is maybe a little bit of a hesitance to communicate your boundaries. Not to blame you, because especially if it's another person that's causing issues, pile number 1, they should know not to just run roughshod all over you. They should be better than that. We all know that. But at the same time, to help improve it, if you know that that person's not going to change or situations aren't going to change, communicating more effectively can help. And it's, interesting too, because the card you were drawn to as your pile leader has air as one of the elements, and air in cardomancy is communication. All right, so it's a very prominent theme within your reading. Let's look at your other and your last oracle card here. Any other advice you have, Spirit, for pile 1 as they make this journey towards more abundance and more security and cutting out the things in their life, making the choice to end things that no longer serve them? Right there. Okay. That is the one I'm hearing. Relaxation. Okay, we have someone slung in a hammock reading a book before the moon. Interesting card to pop up for this reading. I wonder if maybe you've been kind of stressed extra lately, which is very totally understandable, pile number 1, especially if you've been dealing with a lot of this kind of bull crap, right? And so it's like Spirit reminding you to maybe not to have, especially if you get into arguments with people, or I should say, really, it seems like in this situation, people getting into arguments with you, like they start it rather than you. It's like Spirit is telling me to say you maybe shouldn't give it as much mental space in your mind. Maybe you tend to kind of over worry a lot, which, I'm with you, pile number 1. I'm a worrywart myself. So I totally understand where you're coming from with that. But it's like Spirit is ask yourself, when you come across people who say very petty things, consider the source. Are they the expert on your life? Are they the expert on everything? Do they know everything? Obviously, they don't, right? When they naysay you, are they an expert in the things that you're trying to do? No, obviously not, probably. Or if they are, they should be encouraging you rather than being petty and nasty, right? Or same thing too, maybe if it's not a person and it's just situations in general that you're trying to improve, and you maybe keep beating yourself up a bit about oh man, why am I not there yet? Oh man, why can't I just fix this overnight? Spirit is saying, give yourself a little bit of slack, pile 1, okay? And then number 2, please take time for self-care. Now, I know that's technically cliche advice, but really in our modern world, self-care is really undervalued. We don't take care of ourselves enough, right? And, we don't take care of each other enough either, but that's another entire reading somewhere else. But in your particular reading, pile 1, take care of yourself more, okay? Relax more. Ask yourself, whenever you're worrying or being anxious about something, does that thing that you're worrying about deserve the mental space in your mind for you to have to spend time worrying about it, or that person? Same thing too, especially if it's people. Okay? Ask yourself, are they paying me the emotional rent, or is this particular situation paying me the emotional rent to stay in my mental apartment? Okay, which I know that's weird, but that's kind of how it is. Like we always say, living in your mind rent-free. Don't let things live in your mind rent-free. And that will free you up as well to focus on the things that really matter. Okay, so maybe it's even communication to yourself. You know what? If you can do nothing right now to fix it, or if it's a person being nasty, consider the source, and you realize, well, the source is kind of crap, at least in terms of where their advice is coming from, or their pettiness, or whatever they're saying. Let it go and relax, okay? Don't let things live in your mind rent free. And then that's where you'll get to that place of security with that Queen of Pentacles at the very end. You're already well on your way there, pile 1. Spirit is also patting you on the back, saying, look at the way you're already going. You're already right on the right timeline for that. Okay, as long as you consider this advice in mind as you try to move away from these things, like the Six of Swords reversed mentions. That will lead you to ending the things, cutting them out of your life. That little domino effect. One little domino tipped over that will have lasting positive consequences. A positive ripple effect for the rest of your life. Okay. So that is your message from Spirit today, from the universe, about, well, what they wanted to tell you this summer solstice. So, of course, I hope that most of all that it helped you, pile number 1. I hope you liked it and it resonated. And if so, please like the video itself. Please comment down below your story. Please subscribe to Lone Pine Tarot if you have not done so yet. That just helps me out a little bit, which helps me provide more readings for both you and others for free in the future, and helps me keep the dream of the channel alive of spiritual healing people across the world. And as is our tradition, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Bye, Pile 1. Hello there, my wonderful Pile number 2. Welcome today to your summer solstice message from the universe reading. And of course, as you recall, you were drawn to the beautiful card of Earth of Dimensional, creating sacred. So for every single pile today, I did a little bit of a meditation on your pile leaders before I hit the record button. And what came out with your particular meditation, pile number 2, was something Spirit was telling me about you leaving footprints where you didn't expect to leave them. And I know it sounds kind of weird at first, but just hear me out. They were explaining it basically like there's things that you've done in the past that are coming to a culmination right now in your present that you didn't expect to have that ripple effect. Okay, so maybe we'll see more in the other cards, like what that specifically is. Maybe both, Spirit saying, what were the actions you took up to this point that are leading to this thing, as well as, well, what is it actually like leading to? What is that ripple effect in the end? But I do see it, I think, as something very positive, pile too. So don't run from the reading and be like, oh no, is this going to be a bad thing? It seemed to me to be something very positive, and I think too, it's something that you've been working hard on as well. It's just leading to things in a way that you didn't quite expect. And that's actually kind of a collective message for today. The key word that kind of kept coming up with every time I was meditating on each pile was the word echoes. Okay, so I guess a lot of us are kind of dealing with things kind of, catching up to us from the past in positive ways, or starting things now that will have ripple effects in the future. For some reason, that seems to be kind of a collective energy going around. And just like pile 1, which I recorded right before this, it seems to be like that is a part of your message today as well. Pile number 2. Okay, and also this particular card from the deck that it's from, this it's called the Wild Harmonic Oracle. Fantastic guidebook. Kudos to the author for how they wrote that particular guidebook. Each and every card comes with a single meditation or like a question to ask yourself. And the question to ask yourself with creating sacred, pile number 2, is how do you find meaning in where you are, even if it feels unspecial? So, for example, say that you are taking your daily walk, and on that daily walk, you kind of just consider it as, well, that's the thing I do to de-stress and get a little bit of exercise and kind of think through my problems, right? That's how we consider taking that walk in a very mundane way. But ask yourself, how can I make this very mundane thing seem sacred? So, I'm trying to think of like a really good example. You could think of it as, just for one example, as this daily walk isn't just those 3 things or for those 3 reasons. It's also because I want to connect to nature, or it gives me a chance to notice synchronicities that I wouldn't have noticed otherwise if I was still in our very busy connected world at home on my phone or on my laptop or on, insert thing here, okay? Consider it as connecting with the spirit of yourself, being alone for a bit, okay? Create sacred where you are. That's a piece of advice that Spirit is giving you with this particular card. Where does the sacred meet your everyday life? Too, I think some of you, I was hearing in the meditation, maybe kind of feel like something that you're doing or like your day-to-day life isn't very special or very exciting right now. But I think there's something about it that's special that you're not recognizing. All right. And I think that's kind of connected to that message I was saying before about, footprints that you took or left in the past are catching up to you now in a positive way. It might have seemed for like many years that like you weren't doing anything very special. Like maybe you were kind of in a job that seemed really mundane. Maybe it wasn't like your favorite thing to do. Or maybe you felt like you weren't making much progress on particular goals that you had in mind. But Spirit is saying, Pile 2, that you did. You did make progress that you weren't seeing at the time. Okay, you're seeing it from the first person point of view, whereas Spirit and your spirit guides and your spirit team, etc., guardian angels, things like that, have been seeing it from a bird's eye view. And what they're telling you, Pile 2, is you're making a lot more progress than you're expecting. Okay, those are those footprints you left you didn't expect. So keep that in mind as we look through your reading and the other cards. Now, first off, I want to start with Lenormand today. Let's see anything more with like details. I felt drawn to Lenormand today. There's something to do with maybe more blunt messages. Okay, Spirit, what else do you want to see? Or say, I should say. And then take that one on the bottom. And your first card today from Lenormand is the Woman. Okay, could represent yourself, could represent a feminine energy inside your life that's not you. Or feminine traits. We have the Other Woman. Okay, so maybe just really hyper feminine power. Speaking of the earth element, right? And creation energy. So I want to say too, around the summer solstice, Pile number 2, it would be a very fruitful time for you to try things regarding creation, okay? In all aspects of the way that word can be taken, right? In terms of creative projects, in terms of starting new things, in terms of maybe even planting seeds, literally, right? Even like if you garden, just as an example. And then we have the Moon, which is the unconscious and intuition and emotions. Okay, very interesting. Another very feminine card too. We associate the Moon with femininity rather than, like Sun with masculinity. Interesting for a summer solstice reading. We've got the Moon, right? Okay, so let's look through these cards. If I were to read this as a sentence in the traditional Lenormand way, I'm hearing something about a woman's feminine power not being tapped into enough. And even if you are masculine, Pile number 2, we all have feminine and masculine energy. I just see it not so much in terms of gender, more so in like different kinds of opposites of types of energy. So feminine energy is more passive. It's more creative, like we talked about just a second ago, creation energy. It's more about the unconscious. It's more about soft power. So I think there's something in your life, too, that you're not taking advantage of in terms of your feminine energy and power. Yeah, let's see, especially when it comes to things that you notice or don't notice. Especially with the Moon, because like I said, that means sometimes it can even represent mystery. But you have the feminine power to notice it. You're just not noticing it yet. Yeah, anyways, feminine energy across the board today. Let's see. Let's look at your tarot spread. I'm going to laugh if we get a bunch of the Queen cards, right? That tends to represent feminine energy as well. All right, Spirit, what else do you want to say to them in terms of kind of the situation you're talking about? Okay, we've got one card already. That is the 4 of Pentacles, reserving our resources, being conservative with money or conservative with our things, holding our energy in, okay, can sometimes represent in a positive way, reserving our resources. Sometimes in a negative way, it can mean being kind of a Scrooge, right? Like holding on to money or resources too much. Just like, this whole entire table has tons of pies, and they're trying to prevent her from taking another one. She got one, and they're like, well, that's all you get. Okay, let's split the deck and see what else pops out for your reading. So 2, 3, 4, and, 5. So second card, Pile number 2, we have the Huntsman, okay, which is justice in most decks. Interesting. Justice, giving and taking, and the balance of things. You know, I wonder, pile number 2, if there's something that's been taking a lot more resources from you than is fair. Or somebody has been taking a lot more resources from you than is fair. Because justice often deals with being fair. Fairness in terms of the law, but also just in general in terms of moral character. Yeah, let's keep going. We'll see. We have the oldest one, which is the Hierophant in most decks. Okay, lots of major arcana today. The oldest one, Hierophant, is often about tradition or authority. Yeah, I wonder... And specifically, this particular Hierophant, usually it's a masculine figure, it's a feminine figure in this card. It's like a mother tree almost. So we have that feminine power energy thing popping up again. And then we've got, look at that, another major arcana. We have the Black Shuck reverse, which is death reversed in most decks, which is a refusal to change or inability to change. And then we've got, my God, pile number 2. Okay, not only do we have another major arcana, we literally have the feminine energy card. I remember I joked about queens, but you literally got the Empress with the green mother. Okay, so definitely... Yeah, I was right on track with the Lenormand. There's something about feminine energy here, okay, especially with the Empress now popped out as the outcome. So what I'm seeing here, pile number 2, the thing that I think you're not consciously realizing or leaning into your feminine power enough with is something to do with, like we said before, with the Four of Pentacles and Justice being next to each other. It's like something should be given to you, but is not being given to you fairly, or someone's taking from you in a way that's unfair, okay? It's like someone has so many resources that they could share, especially maybe to you if you're struggling, but like they're not. Or it could be that, you know, potentially, excuse me, in like a different way, it could be like maybe encouraging like you to share more with somebody, or it could also be like, just something to do with like resource dispersal. Okay. And I think here with the heart of the matter being the Hierophant, which like I said is the card of traditions, it's the card also of like spiritual authority. I wonder almost if the hesitation of why that's not being fixed or not being done is because it's like people using the justification of, well, that's the way it always has been. So maybe like if someone is taking too much from you, pile number 2, you're saying, well, that's the way it's always been. Like maybe you don't even recognize it because you're so used to it. Maybe being kind of like exploited in a way that you think it's normal. Like you think, oh, well, that's just the way it is. Like, you know, I'm always very, and like sometimes we justify it to ourselves in terms of, I'm a very giving or selfless person, which is fantastic, pile number 2. Wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to be, but sometimes you can be too giving, sometimes you can be too selfless. And then what happens is that then we have issues with, you know, a Justice next to a Four of Pentacles of unfairness to you. Or, you know, maybe there's something going on in your life where you do see someone else struggling, right? And you do have the resources to share with them, but for some reason you're hesitant, right? Analyze why you're hesitant, okay? Why are you hesitant to share? Because with so many feminine energy cards, and literally we have the Empress, which is like the female energy card in tarot. On top of you got both woman cards in Lenormand, right? And Earth is your pile leader, which is the one of the feminine elements, right? On top of like water, right? There's something more that needs to be nurtured here. It's either you nurturing yourself or others nurturing you more, or you needing to nurture others more, because that's another aspect of feminine energy is nurturing, okay? And then we have in the near future the Death reversed, which is, you know, having some struggle with change, but then in the end with the outcome we have the Empress, which is nurturing. So what I'm telling you right now, pile number 2, however this particular situation applies to you, you're currently on the path after a little bit of a time of struggling with change, which could be, you know, change within yourself or change within others, depending on what's going on here with your particular situation. Once that is fixed, and of course we'll pull some other oracle cards to get advice on, you know, how to fix that. The outcome here is a place of higher nurturing and a place of feminine, strong power energy, okay? You're on your way there. I think really what it takes is for you to notice it, okay? To lean into your feminine power more, your feminine energy, to right the balance of what's fair in terms of resource dispersal or sharing with others, or vice versa, them sharing with you, okay? just for some reason there's an inability, or like, not an inability I should say, but there's a little bit of a hesitance to change here, both either in yourself or like within the other person, depending on who is holding back and who is the one giving too much. All right. But you are on your way to a positive outcome here, okay? So for those of you, especially like those of you struggling with like you need more from other people, but they're not giving to you, and you're like the one who's always having to sacrifice, you're doing good so far on the path towards changing that, okay? Because that's the thing, too, is that, you know, an Empress is, yes, the mother card, the feminine power card, but she also isn't a card of literally sacrificing herself on the altar for everybody else, right? I mean, a mother needs to take care of herself in order to take care of her child, correct? So maybe, too, it's a little bit of a self-nurturing message, too. Maybe you're just throwing yourself under the bus too much for other people, okay? And then, too, I'm trying to remember, yeah, because we talked about the footprints message with your pile leader. I wonder if you've already been kind of planting the seeds towards righting this imbalance. And those were the footprints you left behind. Interesting. We'll see what your oracle cards say. And then I might draw some more tarot cards in the end to get some more clarity for you. Especially, too, with that Hierophant upright next to the Death reversed. It's like a really entrenched mindset of, well, this is the way things have always been, so why change? Like, those two next to each other, that's kind of literally, like, if you interpreted them together, that's what they would mean. Even though we know that the way things have not been fair with these first two cards, okay? But there is an outcome where everybody can get what they want. There is an outcome that way, where you can still help people, but don't have to sacrifice yourself so much, okay? Or where you can help somebody, but it doesn't mean sacrificing the thing that you're worried about losing and helping them when they're struggling, okay? Let's see, this one is the one I'm feeling called to. The Hawk and the Thistle, graceful persistence. Okay, so the first piece of advice from Spirit on rectifying the situation, on changing, on fixing things is all about, oopsie, there goes a card, just flew out onto my lap, was the Rooster and the Sunflower, which is interesting because actually that's the card that pile number 1 got for their reading, which is communication. So I'll take it. We both have 2 birds, and air in cartomancy, which birds are associated with, is often about, well, literally like communication, like the rooster, but also things done with logic and also being honest and truthful. So I think one piece of advice, pile 2, if you were more honest and truthful, and or if maybe some of the issue is more on someone else's end, to encourage other people to be more honest and truthful, that would help you get to a place of nurturing, to a place of higher self-care, or everybody kind of getting what they need without anyone having to sacrifice themselves, okay? And then, too, we have the secondary message of graceful persistence. You know, I always, when this card pops up, I always think of a place that I used to work at. I always had to drive down a certain highway, and I live kind of on the cusp of prairie land, and so whenever I would drive down that highway, I would always see these hawks sitting up on the light poles, overlooking the golden fields, right? Overlooking the grasses. And we always associate hawks with that persistence and that grace, because not only do they fly very well, okay, they're graceful in that way, but the persistence part is the way that they'll just stand there for the longest time searching for prey in the grass. Okay, they'd sit up on those poles and they would not even move for a long time, and then suddenly they'd see something and then boom, there they go, striking down after soaring for a while, okay? So that can also be a piece of advice to maybe hold your cards for a bit, to not necessarily go on instant gut reactions when it comes to actions taken regarding the situation and trying to fix it. Ask yourself, and I know it sounds silly whenever I bring up, like, you know, well, what would an animal do in this situation? But just entertain it for a second, you know? Let's play a little bit with inner child work here and imagine the way that a child would. In your situation, how would a hawk go about fixing this, or go about trying to solve this? Okay. Using the natural qualities of, say, a hawk. Well, let's see, they would be quite, along the philosophy of measure twice, cut once. Okay, so be absolutely sure before you take action with these things. No gut impulse reactions, right? Go slow and then strike when the moment is ready. Okay. Trying to think what else, like how a hawk, their different traits, right? Also with speed. That's another thing hawks are known for, is being very quick. I think technically hawks are one type of hawk is the fastest bird in the entire world. It might be peregrine falcons, I'm not sure. I guess they're technically a falcon and not a hawk, but you know what I mean, pile number 2. So embody the traits of how a hawk would approach the situation. Graceful persistence. Anything else, pile number 2? Let's see. And then we have love. Beautiful. We've got roses. More traditional looking ones, right? Love. Do things with love in mind, okay? Which is also another really good aspect of feminine energy. Although love is also associated with masculine energy. I feel like with masculine energy, love isn't as associated as much, at least in terms of popular culture. But, you know, talking about it more with the feminine energy perspective, because all of the feminine energy cards that you got in this particular reading, pile number 2. How do you love in a feminine way? Let's see. We nurture. Feminine love is about, well, creating things, like we talked about with a lot of the other cards that you got. It's about soft love, things done in subtle ways, okay? Maybe too, you know, if you feel like someone has been taking too much from you, and part of your hesitation about cutting them off is, well, a fear of, like them struggling, or fear that like they'll sink without you. Ask yourself, how can I help them in subtle ways that also, how can I love them in subtle ways that helps them in ways that also teaches them to be less demanding of me? Okay. Maybe some of you, this is like a child or a family related thing. Like maybe a child's been asking too much from you, or it could also be like just a family member in general, because I mean, a lot of like the mother card is like a family related card too, sometimes, if it literally is a mother, right? And of course, you know, we always come to that crossroads when it's someone that we love deeply, especially if it's a family member, right? We think to ourselves, well, we love this person, how can we just not give them this thing that they're asking for? But sometimes love can be defined in a different way, pile number 2. Sometimes loving people is loving them enough to let them go enough so that they can be self-sustaining, okay? That's another way that you can love someone in a feminine way, is through gentle teaching, right? Just like, for example, when, you know, I'm trying to think of what kind of birds do this. Maybe all birds do this. I don't know. Any wildlife biologists in the comments, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But like we think about, you know, like a bird pushing a chick out of the nest to teach it how to fly. You know, to the chick, it might feel like, you know, oh man, like, oh, my parent is throwing me out of the nest. This is uncomfortable. I feel like I'm in danger. But at the same time, from the perspective of the parent bird, it's, I'm pushing them out so that they are pushed into situations where they learn how to fly on their own, so that after I am gone, they know how to sustain without me. Okay, that is one example of that kind of love. All right. So think about different situations in your life where you can apply that principle, is another part of the message here. All right. And 2, you know, connecting it back to your pile leader, creating sacred. How can you see this situation in a sacred way? On the mundane level, it might seem like, you know, oh, I'm dealing with some sort of unfairness, or, you know, I'm being asked to do something that feels unfair to me, right? But think of it from a sacred feminine perspective, okay? Things like that. But do remember at the end of the day, too, especially for those of you that are dealing with a situation where you are being too sacrificial of yourself, you also need to be nurturing to yourself. You also need to love yourself, too. You can't always throw yourself underneath the bus or light yourself on fire so that other people can stay warm, okay? And I think it's something that you kind of unconsciously, subconsciously know, like we had with the moon card in the beginning with Lenormand. But maybe it's just the action of realizing, well, just because it's always been done this way, it doesn't mean that it can't change. And that will lead you to a place of greater nurturing and care and fairness for everyone involved, okay? And love, too. So, that is your message for today, pile number 2. I hope that you liked it. I hope, of course, most of all, that it resonated and helped you. And if so, please like the video itself. Please comment down below. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. As I always say in my little spiel at the end of each video, or reading, I should say, it helps me a lot for you to subscribe. It's just half a second for you, but it helps keep the channel's dream alive of providing spiritual healing to people around the world, as well as providing free readings for both you and others in the future. Okay, so as is our tradition, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Bye, pile 2. Hello there, my wonderful pile number 3. Welcome today to your summer solstice message from the universe. And of course, as you recall, you were drawn to the beautiful card Celestial of Air, Spiral Time as your pile leader. So before every single reading I have done today, including yours, I meditated on each pile leader to see what messages came through intuitively from Spirit. And when I was meditating on your particular card, pile 3, what really came to mind was the word echoes. And that's actually the key word that I have been hearing resoundingly, excuse the pun with echoes, for every single pile today. It kind of seems like it's the collective energy for all of us. And it's something to do with, I think a lot of us are going through times right now where either there's been things that have occurred in the past that are echoing now, or at the same time, things that we're doing now that will create echoes that resound in the future and have ripple effects. And especially your particular card, pile 3, is precisely the card that represents that, because Spiral Time is all about coming to situations in life that are echoes, like that keyword, of where we've been before. However, the difference is not only, well, time, but also, how are we different now than we were when we first came across a situation like this, okay? So that's exactly the meditation that this particular deck's guidebook, fantastically written guidebook, by the way, love the Wild Harmonic Oracle, kudos to the author. It's the question of that meditation of this card asks you to ask yourself, literally the question of, how is what I'm going through right now a reflection of where I was before, and how am I different now compared to that time before? So I don't know if a lot of you have been going through situations in your life right now or recently that are kind of like reflections of problems that you already have gone through in the past. Or like one example I'm thinking of is like maybe when you were young, you were bullied a lot, and now as an adult, you're going through a time at your workplace where you feel like that kind of picked on kid a bit again. Or like another example is, you know, maybe when you were a kid you had, or earlier, younger, you had a fear of trying new things, fear of the unknown kind of, and maybe right now you're going through a really hard time trying to tackle something with that fear of the unknown getting in your way, okay, or trying something new. Maybe you had a fear of change back then and have a fear of change now. However it applies to you, pile number 3, ask yourself, how am I different now compared to back then when I faced a similar situation? So maybe this time around you are more confident, that just comes with age, right? Or maybe this time around you know how to handle the unknown a lot better because as an adult you've had to handle the unknown untold times every single probably day, right? Things like that, okay? So keep that meditation in mind as we go through the rest of your message. I'm going to start today with the Lenormand. I felt drawn to this particular deck today. I guess maybe a little bit of blunt messages are needed for our collective, as Lenormand is very good about doing. We already have a card that flipped over. That is the Writer. Okay, something about a message or news or delivery. And then let's grab the last 2 cards. We have 1. We have 2. Secondly, we've got the Garden or the Community, okay, which tends to represent literally like social gatherings or a group of people. So a message regarding a group of people or a gathering. And the holly tree, which tends to represent either legacy, or it can represent family, or it can represent health in some way. It tends to be the health card as well in Lenormand. So reading this as a sentence, as I normally would with a traditional Lenormand reading pile number 3, there's something that Spirit wants to talk to you about today that is news or message of a gathering regarding health or family. Okay? News, message, gathering, or community group, family, and health. So let's keep that in mind as we look at your other cards. I'm going to draw your tarot cards next to get more context, but in general, pile 3, I don't know if recently you've been having some struggles regarding family or trying to get family to get together, or maybe that's part of the echo of in the past. Maybe there's family problems that are coming up again now that you dealt with in the past, or maybe even weren't dealt with, and so now those problems are bringing forward into the future now, and you're having to deal with the echoes of that weren't dealt with or wrapped up with loose threads last time. Things like that. Maybe it's even in some way like one particular family member that's been causing issues and trying to get everyone into a cohesive whole or on the same page, or and reading this too for health. I don't, I tend to try to not to read for health with tarot, just because, I'm not a doctor, but I will say, and be honest, Lenormand tree tends to represent health as well. So that could be a message regarding, like I said, a gathering around your health. So I don't know if maybe you've had like some doctor's appointment soon that you're kind of worried about or you're concerned about. Or it could also be potentially some sort of news. Maybe some of you work in the health field and there's some big meeting or conference coming up. That could also be one representation. We'll keep that in mind for just different perspectives and different situations that you all might be in, knowing that these are collective readings. Let's look at your tarot cards. It'll give us more insight. We've got very interesting. A lot of feminine energy has been popping up today, too, in all the readings. We have the Empress, or the Green Mother, as it's known in this particular deck. Speaking of healing and nurturing, and families, too. Tends to be a family card as well, being, literally the mother, Empress. I don't know if some of you have been having something to do with your mother recently. Maybe that's part of where the family comes in. It could also represent a desire to nurture or create something as well, especially as an inciting incident card. We have another feminine card. We have the Wise Woman, or the High Priestess, as it's known in most decks, is following your intuition or something being a mystery you're trying to solve. That's another way that can represent itself. We've got 2 major arcana so far. Let's see what else. We've got the Ten of Swords. Okay, so Ten of Swords can either represent feeling like we're just done with something. Like this is an old knight. He's done riding his horse. He's kind of battered. His sword is broken. He's like, can I keep carrying on with this? Sometimes, too, though, it can represent being betrayed, because the traditional depiction is of someone laying in the ground with 10 swords in their back, okay? So I wonder if maybe some of you have been feeling kind of betrayed by family recently, or betrayed by, something to do with your health, if that's the way that you would interpret that for your situation with the tree card. And there's been some sort of mystery around that recently, and it's like you're finally in the present position, being the middle or the heart of the matter card, as I call the 3rd card. You're just tired, and you're like, I'm so done with this. I'm ready for this to heal. I'm ready to be done with this particular situation. There's been this element of trying to follow your gut, trying to follow your heart here with the High Priestess, and, maybe trying to solve a mystery of some sort. But it's tiredness now. I'm just tired. And then we have the Weaver, or the Queen of Wands reversed. That can represent someone that's lacking confidence. Tends to be feminine energy once again, also popping out. Lots of feminine energy across every pile today, especially you in pile 2. And 2 being, feminine with fire in the negative. It's like, yeah, losing your confidence in something. And then last but not least, we've got the Ten of Pentacles reversed as the outcome card. Speaking of family, that makes me think that, like I said with the tree before, that leans me a little bit more towards more of you of this being a family-related thing, because you did get the Ten of Pentacles, which tends to be the family card. We literally have a family getting together here for a gathering and dancing and eating, right? So I want to say pile number 3. Now, I want to be an honest tarot reader, and when I see a Ten of Pentacles reversed as an outcome, that tends to tell me that whatever the problem is with the family-related thing, for those of you, this is family, because that tends to be, yeah, like a card of legacy and a card of inheritance and family getting along in a gathering, especially, too, like with the community garden, it's like literally a gathering card here. I'll say this. I'm hearing from Spirit that it might not necessarily work out with this family-related thing in terms of, especially if maybe there's been like one person kind of throwing a fly in the ointment, so to speak. But I'm also hearing from Spirit that it's not necessarily for the worse. It's almost something that comes along and happens because it's meant to happen, and because it's like you're better off with it turning out this way in the end anyways. Okay, does that kind of make sense, pile number 3? Especially because in the near future you have the Queen of Wands reversed. And that tends to represent like you've been like losing hope, like faith or confidence in something, especially. It's kind of like star reverse that way a bit. It's like it's taken the enchantment and the joy out of whatever this thing is, maybe like, you know, with this family member, and it's that jadedness too of the Ten of Swords being the heart of the matter. It's like, oh man, I'm jaded, I'm tired, I'm sick of dealing with this. And I wonder too if it is like a particular family member, or maybe just family in general, you've kind of always had struggles with, you know, tying it back to your pile leader, it's like an echo, bringing in that keyword again, of issues you've had in the past. So I don't think it really would surprise you either, pile 3. I think you've already kind of known that you've always, you know, had issues with this particular family member or with this particular person, or with, you know, this harmony in the family being always kind of cast askew. And I think it's because there's a lesson in this for you in terms of your soul path, in terms of life lessons, we call them in the spiritual community, where you're meant to learn when to let go. Okay, when to let go of things and people that no longer serve you, is what I'm hearing, even if you're technically related by blood. Okay, and that is one of the hardest things in life, pile number 3. And I think all of us can relate to. I mean, feel free to weigh down in the comments, every single one of you. Have you ever had a struggle with family or had to let go of a family member because it just could not get along, or, you know, they did something that just, your family, it just wasn't good for them to be around, right? I think every single person can say, yes, there's at least one person in their family like that. And it is difficult, pile 3, right? It is hard to let people go, especially when you're related to them, because, you know, we have that inherent love, you know, because you share the blood of the womb, right? Speaking of the mother card, right? Empress. But at the same time, I mean, I always think back to that old saying, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. What matters more is the covenant you share with others, that agreement to peace and getting along and treating each other well. It matters more than blood does. Okay. For those of you where this is a health-related thing with the tree, let me try to interpret it for that particular situation. Like maybe you're worried about a doctor's appointment coming up soon. In which case, you know, like if it's more health-related, what I'm seeing here is like maybe there's been some sort of health mystery that you've been trying to solve. You've been trying to nurture it, and you feel very like tired and done, and you're losing your confidence in trying to solve what this is. You're losing your kind of like your direction, or like your feeling of like wanting to like, maybe you're feeling like, well, maybe I just have to cope with this, maybe I just have to put up with whatever this health related thing is. For you, pile number 3, if it's health related for you, unlike if it's family related for like the other maybe half or so of you, That Ten of Pentacles is actually reversed as a good sign, because what that means is that you're breaking a tradition. You're breaking a legacy of something that's been happening a lot in the past, okay? So for those of you who have something maybe doctor or health related, just know that I am seeing here of something, and especially too if it was something you inherited from a parent, because the Ten of Pentacles reversed is like not inheriting something. Maybe you're almost afraid that you did inherit something. I feel like you're going to find out that you didn't with that Ten of Pentacles reversed, or you're going to be able to break away from it, unlike a parent or someone else in your family that had this particular health related thing. You're going to realize, okay, I have a way to break this, even though I know right now it feels really difficult, pile 3, because you're like, oh man, I'm tired. I'm so done. And then the Queen of Wands reversed too is especially a card about being like, I'm losing my confidence. I'm losing my will to fight this. I'm losing, things like that. But the Ten of Pentacles reversed is I'm breaking the tradition. I'm breaking the legacy. Something new rather than something old. Okay. Okay. So that is it for the tarot cards, at least. Let's look at your oracle cards. We'll see if any other messages pop up, or maybe advice on, letting go of these things. There's so many kind of varied ways this reading could be taken. Like I said, I feel like half of you it's family, half of you it's health. We'll see kind of what else pops forward. And remember, keep in mind that question we asked you to meditate on with your pile leader is, where have I seen this situation before, and how am I different now than the first time I came across it? We have the owl and the hop, wisdom. Okay, so hop, of course, we always associate, that's the plant that creates beer, right? Also, owls we associate with wisdom. We think of them as wise creatures. We associate them with Athena, especially. Athena was the Greek goddess of, many things, but wisdom, war, tactics in war, things like that. She was represented by the owl. We also see them as messengers from the other side, as omens. Okay. Especially being night creatures. So, wisdom. Leaning on the wisdom of the past is what I'm hearing with that particular card. So I almost wonder, pile 3, if part of the solution to your issues, what's been going on with either health or family, is there's something, I'm hearing, it's like there's something from the past that's going to help you. It's wisdom of the ages is what I'm hearing with that owl and hop card. I almost wonder if it's a health related thing, if there's some old method of trying to heal it that's going to work better for you, that like a doctor suggests, that will help break the pattern that you're trying to break out of with your health. Or it could also be, if this is family related for you, I would almost say to look at different situations in your family where this family issue has popped up before. What was the wisdom you extracted from when it happened in the first place? Like we talked about, remember, echoes was the key word for today. When it happened in the past, what did you learn about maybe this person that's been causing problems in your family at that time? Okay. What did you learn? And apply that to now. And how are you different now? That's the other part of the question that this pile leader asked you to ask yourself. How are you different now than you were back then? Are you more confident? Are you more mature, probably, obviously, as we were always more mature the next day after the other, right? And also, too, there's a lot of cards about parents in this particular spread. Not only do we have the Empress, which is the mother card, right? We also have the Wise Woman, which is like an older feminine figure. And the Ten of Swords in this particular deck is an older male figure, right? And then we literally have the Ten of Pentacles, which is like also the parentage card. So there's a lot about your parents, too. I wonder for some of you, for those of you where your parents are still on Earth, still with us on this side, I wonder if maybe some of you might ask them for advice for what's going on, if you haven't already. And for those of you where your parents have already passed on, this might actually really be more of a message from them directly, collectively, than it is really from necessarily like the universe as a whole. Especially mothers, because you did get the Empress and then the Wise Woman as well. But we do have a little bit of masculine energy over there with that Ten of Swords, okay? So in that case, too, for those of you where your parents have passed already, ask yourself, what wisdom would they give me in this situation that I haven't thought about or applied yet? Or maybe they dealt with a very similar problem themselves. How did they deal with it? Especially if it's health related, that maybe genetically passed down to you. Or maybe a emotional or relationship type problem that passed down to you. Okay, maybe it's like conflict, tension in families, things like that. What would they tell you to do? Or, like I said, if they're living, ask them. Okay. Let's look at your last card here. Spirit, what else would you like to say to pile 3 today about their reading for the summer solstice? Anything else? Right there. Delight. We have, looks like a sparrow, I believe. Some kind of songbird. Delight. Lots of birds in this particular reading. I don't know if there's been like a lot of bird symbolism resounding around the person who has passed. If your parents have passed, pile number 3. Because we have the owl and we have this songbird as well. I don't think I see any other birds in the other cards, no, but interesting. Delight. We also see birds flying away in the background of this card. And I think I'm thinking back to earlier what I said, pile 3, about even though the outcome technically looks negative, especially for those of you that this is more of a family-oriented reading, there's something about it that you're kind of better off for in the end anyways. And I think that's where this delight card comes in. There's something about letting go that's going to free you and make you feel lighter. Because the delight I'm hearing with this particular card is more the delight of feeling like a load is off of your shoulders. Okay? Something's going to free you. Something's going to make you feel delight in the way of feeling like, okay, well, at least that burden is no longer weighing on me anymore. Okay? And I know, it might seem sad at first, or like you really want to keep trying to kindle whatever this is, if it's family related, right? And Spirit commends you for trying, but at the same time, remember what I said earlier about a person's covenant to you and promise to you, and the way they treat you is more important than the blood that you share. Okay? I think that will help set you free from whatever this is. For those of you where this is like a health-related reading, and the Ten of Pentacles reversed was more of a positive outcome, at least in terms of like kind of an in-your-face positive outcome, where it's like breaking the legacy. That's also just another sign with delight here that you're going to find a positive outcome in terms of whatever health-related thing that you've been working on, okay? And especially, too, we see a lot of verdancy with all the green and the grass and the flowers in that particular card. That makes me think of bounty. It makes me think of abundance and healing, especially we always associate with the color green as well. Okay. So I do see a positive outcome for you. So if you are worried about a doctor's appointment, pile 3, if that is your particular scenario that you're dealing with, I would maybe not worry about it too much. I think you're going to find maybe at least a better solution or feedback than you're expecting, okay? Or at least there's going to be something given to you that's a kernel of hope in terms of the mystery that you've been trying to solve and heal and fix that you're just tired with, okay? You're tired of. Okay, but in the end, I think for all of you, I mean, especially for those of you, this is a family-oriented reading, you might come away from this being like, oh, well, I really wish it would, work out right. But it does work out in the end in any case, right? Like I said, it's going to feel like a burden off your shoulders. It's going to feel like a burden has been taken off of you. So, really, it's a reading of healing, all in all, pile number 3. especially healing from things that were not resolved in the past that have come spiraling around again, like your pile leader talks about. And then even too, I just noticed this too, like the woman in the Queen of Wands, she's dancing in a circle. You can tell because of the spray of her skirt. It's like things cycling around again and again and again. But I think for every single person in this reading, health or family, or however this particular reading applies to your situation, or I'm sorry, yeah, health or family, yep. It's like the last time that this problem is going to crop up again, I feel like. I think that's also part of the delight message too. Okay. So you're cresting the final mountain with us. Beautiful, beautiful outcome. Okay. So that is your reading for today, pile number 3. I hope, of course, most of all, that it resonated and helped you. That's what I aim for the most with my readings. But of course, too, that you liked it. So if so, please like the reading, or the video itself. A little button right up that goes like this, right? Thumbs up. So please like the video. Please comment down below your story. Please subscribe to Lone Pine Tarot if you haven't done so already. As I always say with my little spiel, it's a tiny little button click away for you, which helps me immeasurably with keeping the dream of the channel alive, of providing spiritual healing to you all, as well as providing free readings for both you and others in the future. And as is our tradition on Lone Pine Tarot, I wish you a wonderful, very healing, based on everything going on here, rest of your day. And I hope to see you in the next reading. Bye, pile 3.